Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So we're back on this Partscaster build. This is part 3 in the series, and we're moving right along. Last time we got the bridge mounted. Today we're going to do the pick guard, the back plate, and probably a full setup as well as the nut. I told you last time that I had lost a little bit of audio in some of my clips, so for this pick guard mounting, I'm going to have to show you some clips of me doing this in the past. I'll weave those in, but essentially you're going to want to drill out each one of these holes, and I use sort of the same method that I use for some of my other holes. I drill a small starter hole first, I go back in and remove some of the finish with a little bit larger bit, then I mount the pick guard finally. And of course, before you mount the pick guard finally, you have to put the jack plate on. That's going to involve soldering on the leads for the jack, and I like to mount the jack plate and pull the slack through to this main cavity. Also, you have to take care of that tremolo claw ground wire. That's a necessary step before you put the back plate on for good. Now, I've said it before, but pickguard screws are not all created equal. The American size pickguard screws are just a little bit smaller head than some of the imported ones, so I've used those intentionally on this build just because I like the look a little bit better. So I mentioned that I got my ground strap connected. I don't have all my final measurements done here. For example, I don't have strings on it, so I can't actually replicate the string tension. But what I can do is go ahead and mount the back cover, because it's going to be on and off a couple of times anyway, and I just want the holes to go ahead and be here. Now, what I really care about here is functionality, so I like to locate my tremolo cover based off of the tremolo block and the opening in the cover itself, rather than trying to square this up with the neck plate or some other surface. And what I really want to make sure of is that my strings come out easily whenever I'm changing strings. So I like to center the opening over the block itself. When I'm happy with the position, I'll just use a little bit of tape to hold it on. And now we're ready to punch some starter divots and then drill the holes just like I did on the pick guard. Once you drill for the back plate, you put the screws in, and this is the final result. Most everything I have left to do on this guitar now is going to require strings, so that's the next step. Now, these are very strange tuners. They have holes that intersect at 90 degrees. You're supposed to go through one hole, around the tuner, and then back through the other hole with the string. Because I know that's going to be a struggle, I'll do that off camera, and then we'll come back when the strings are installed. Alright, Partscaster fans, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because actually I've done a little bit more work to this in the interim than I intended to do off camera. I went ahead and finished the nut filing. I've shown that plenty of times, so there's no mystery there. I use the Music Nomad nut files, and I just cut those things to depth. I usually go to about 20 thousandths on the wound strings, maybe 18 on the unwound strings. And of course, the number one thing you want to watch out for as you're doing that is that your action is roughed in, so it's roughly correct where you want it to be. And so I usually use about 4/64ths at the 17th fret. That of course is adjusted down here at the bridge with these Allen screws on the saddles. And I also, while I was at it, went ahead and roughed in the intonation. So basically you set this one at 25.5 and you kind of go back in a little bit of a zigzag pattern, and I have described that previously on a how to set up a Stratocaster video, so you want to look for that if you're interested. One thing I have not quite done yet is pickup height, so we're going to do that now. I also have a quick tip video on this if you're interested, but before I get to that, I did want to just mention the string installation on these Wilkinson tuners is a little bit strange, and I'll give you a close-up shot of that. But I told you about the intersecting holes, or the perpendicular holes in those posts. It makes for a strange installation, but I'll show you a close-up of that. And in the process of putting these strings on, I also installed the string trees, so I'll get a good shot of those for you. There was no mystery to that either. The holes were basically already there. I had filled them in previously, but I ended up using the same general location to install these, so nothing special there. Oh, and I just realized there is one other thing I need to check before I do pickup height, and that's neck relief. So let me go ahead and take care of that. With a capo at the 1st fret, you want to fret the guitar at the 17th fret and check it at the 8th. With a 10,000ths feeler gauge. Alright, well that looks really good, so we're ready to go on the pickup height. Alright, on the pickups, the vintage spec says that you want the low E pole at 6/64ths and the high E pole at 5/64ths. Now, if you've seen me do this before, you've seen me do it with Allen wrenches, and that is a much easier method and faster. But I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes that you can actually do this with a ruler. All right, looks like I need to go in a little bit on my neck pickup and out a little bit on my bridge pickup. Okay, and then 5/64. That one's good. That one's good. And I need to go out a lot on this one. All right, everything looks pretty good. I also want to float this tremolo a little bit, so I removed the back plate in preparation for that, and I've tuned up all the strings, and it does float just a little bit where I've set the springs at so far, but it needs a little bit more, so let's go ahead and adjust that. My best suggestions on adjusting a Strat tremolo are to go ahead and set it where it's very close to the body initially. Then when you start backing the screws out, it'll introduce a little bit more float and you won't have very far to adjust from there. You can also get yourself a wedge, and I've got a video showing that on a Floyd Rose. The principles are the same, and you can make a wedge yourself out of a block of wood. You can use a stack of coins, you can use a stack of post-it notes, whatever's handy for you, and there's definitely no right way to do it. Okay, I've got to tune this thing back up, and it should be really close to being the correct amount of float because I was really close already. Alright, well, something we've started doing recently, I've been showing you some video and photo close-ups of the final product, so let's go ahead and go through that now. And the main things that I wanted to show you are a video view from bottom to top of the body and the neck, all the way up to the bone nut and the headstock here with the Fender style string trees, and then again on the back, all the way down from the bottom of the body up to the top of the neck. And here you'll see a little surprise that I installed, which I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'll also give you a close-up of the back plate and the way that it fits with the tremolo block, because I know we talked about that. And I'll give you one more close-up of the headstock, the pickups and pickguard, and the bridge with the vintage style Fender saddles, which are an excellent upgrade. So I mentioned a surprise on the back of the headstock, and that's this bottle cap that I installed here on the back. I use a Forstner bit, a 30mm Forstner bit, to make that hole in the back of the headstock. I repaired the finish with a little bit of stain, and then I set this bottle cap in there into that void using some hot glue. I think it's kind of a cool little custom touch, and it's hidden, and I just wanted to experiment and see if I could do it. I think the cool thing about that mod is it doesn't poke through the face of the headstock at all. You can't even tell it's there. And it's just a little touch that lets you know that this is just not a department store guitar. It's something that somebody put a little custom time into, even though there's no logo on the face of the headstock. Alright, before we wrap up, I just want to say a couple things about these pickups. It's a pretty nice set of Alnico magnet, staggered pole, vintage style pickups. And I think they were only about 27 or 28 bucks on Amazon for the whole set. They have a rather unpronounceable name, so if you want the full list of components here or on the rest of the loaded pickguard, go check out that video I've got on wiring a loaded pickguard for a Strat. And all of that is in the description for that video. But I think you saw how much effort I put into shielding this guitar and trying to cut down on some of the noise, and even still, in some of these positions with the single coils, you get just a little bit of hum. And it's probably not coming through the video very well, but I can definitely hear it in my amp behind me. And of course, in the positions in between where there's hum canceling, it's dead quiet. But I just thought I'd point that out. But overall, honestly, I think they sound like a fairly good set of Strat pickups. It has a very biting sounding bridge pickup. A little bit more mellow middle pickup. And of course a nice mellow sounding, familiar bell-like Strat neck pickup. And that bass really comes through on that one. Well, this was a fun build, and I hope you enjoyed following along with me. It's definitely not the last Strat that I'm going to build. I recently got a very nice donation from a viewer of ours, and I'll be talking more about that in the next episode. I think I'm going to build a giveaway guitar. Try not to get too excited, and we're going to plan that out a little bit better in the weeks to come, but I intend to get started on that build pretty soon. Again, thank you all for the likes and the comments. I appreciate all of them. I definitely appreciate the subscriptions and you visiting my Amazon links. All of that really helps the channel. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys next time.